Elijah Minnie, mate, thank you for jumping on. I've been looking forward to this chat for a while. We haven't had a chance to talk that much, but welcome to the podcast, but probably unofficially welcome to the Taranaki Airs. Mate, it's been good to get to watch and good to get to know you a little bit.
I appreciate it, Chris. I appreciate being on here.
Mate, so the way this works is we're going to listen to this in Australia and New Zealand. Without putting words in your mouth, tell us about your journey, because I know that. Well, let's start with college. You were Eastern Michigan, right? Um,
Uh, yeah. I eventually started out at Robert Morris. It's a
right.
low mid major, D1 outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I spent 2 years there. My freshman year was pretty decent. We went to the NCAA tournament, lost to Duke, who eventually ended up winning the national tournament that year. Then my sophomore year kind of just got like, just didn't fit. Didn't feel like I fit in with that culture anymore. And then I transferred to Eastern Michigan.
How did you find Eastern Michigan? Because, as in, how did you get a hold of them? Because, ironically, it's one of those schools that actually has had a number of Australians go and do quite well there. Venky Joyce, Tyler Robertson, Felix von Hoff. There've been quite a number of Aussies go there, and we've got some awareness of it from in Australia. How did you end up there? How did you choose them?
Um, well, it was pretty tough. At first, I wasn't supposed to go there. I had teams like Clemson and NC State, Toledo, which was in the MAC. And then I think when I started getting MAC schools, other schools in that conference started like contacting me. And then Eastern Michigan was actually the last team to contact me, like right before the deadline. And I went and took a official visit, and me and the coach got got along really well off the visit. And then a few of the players I just clicked with automatically. It gives me like the same type of vibes that I have here with the Airs. Like the team just clicked like automatically, and I was like, yeah, this is where I want to be at.
Um, did you? This is a number of years ago, and forgive me for not knowing this. Did you have to redshirt a year when you transferred back then, or
Yeah, I did. So I played 2 years at Robert Morris. I transferred, had to sit out that year that I transferred, and then I played my 2 years.
Talk to me about that. It's a one thing. I'm not a huge fan of the transfer portal because players are just transferring all the time and sort of taken away from a sense of loyalty in some regard. But I can't imagine being away from home, wanting to play basketball and having to sit for a year. How did that go?
Well, I wasn't home. I was with the team. We were not allowed to travel with the team, and we're not allowed to play games. So I was just, just getting extra reps in with the team, just getting acquainted with like the offense, the defense, just learning tendencies of the coach. And I feel like, I'm sorry, I feel like in that red shirt year, I got really, really good. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I got really good. I spent a lot of time in the gym, a lot of time in the weight room, just preparing. And that whole preparation, and I was with two other guys. So we were together every day,
Right.
just preparing, just building trust and familiarity with each other. For me, it was great. Like that sit out year is what I needed. I feel like it gave me a year of growth. It gave me like that whole year. I feel like I just improved as like a player standpoint and as like a person. It was like a humbling experience, and it like built character for me. Like
I,
I
I,
enjoyed myself. Yeah.
I always ask I like asking sort of real questions. When you say you grew as a person, how? 'Cause I've just watched my daughter go through college, and I've
hmm
seen it, and I could almost tell you what she would say, how she's grown. But I'm always fascinated when people say things like that instead of just leaving it alone. As how did you grow in that year without playing?
Um, it's just I just started learning like more about myself, like tendencies. Like I worked on like all of my flaws. Like I feel like me and my coach sat down and he asked me like, "What are you good at?" And he was like, "Okay, so work on those things." But then he had said like, "What are you bad at? Like, what are the things you need to work on?" And it was like a character development. Like it was like not just basketball, but like what do you need to work on off the court as well to help you on the court.
What did you
And
tell him?
you know,
Not all of
yeah,
it.
just little things like I just need to be more consistent. I need to just be um like pro minded. Like he's from Syracuse, my coach. Like he was under Boeheim. So like he's dealt with Carmelo Anthony. He's dealt with like all those pros from Syracuse, and he's seen that in me even at my sit out year. And he was just always preached to me, just have a pro mindset, like just always be on time, always be on point for everything. And it was a big character development that sit out year is what I meant by
Sure.
personal growth.
So that you did become a pro, um, and you bounced around a little bit. Tell us where you've been before we dig into each one of them.
So coming out of college, I went to Switzerland. I was in Lugano. Didn't really fit in there that much. I think I wasn't really ready. Um, but it was a great experience. It prepared me for now, like time now. So looking back on it, I really appreciated that experience. And then after that, I played in the TBL, which is in the States. It's like NBA, G League, and then TBL. It's a league that like everyone can see. And then I did really well. We went to the national championship. We lost in the championship, and then after that, I went to the UK BBL. I played a few games, got injured, and eventually I went home. And then during that period of me being home, it was like one of those. It's like that sit out year again. Like I was just character development. Like I was just, what do I need to do to bounce back from this to be better? And then during that summer, I went to Venezuela. I did really well. We went to the playoffs. And then I was just in Uruguay and I did really well. And so ever since like that that UK season, it's just been constant, just trying to be better than the last place that I was in.
It's one of the. I was in Russia for 3 years, and I remember being there a little bit like what you said about Switzerland. I thought I was 3 months in. I thought I've made the worst decision of my life. It was freezing cold. No one spoke English. It wasn't the friendliest place to live in, and my family was on the other side of the world, and I couldn't get there. Um, it was funny, like you said about character development. I'll never forget the one night I was sitting there, and I think I realized I was waiting for someone to come and help instead of actually trying to do it myself. I'm like, fuck it, stop waiting for someone and get your head out of your ass, and no one's coming to help. Get this
Right,
shit done. And I was counting down the days until I got out of there for so long, and turns out I ended up going back for 2 more years. I found a way to embrace the culture, and finally got a teammate who spoke English as well as Russian, so it opened up the doors for me. But I agree with what you said about I wouldn't take away the hardest years from Isle. I think I became so appreciative of the good situations that I was probably taking for granted. It was probably the biggest one. Um,
definitely.
Tell us about South America. It's a place I've never been. It's a place that not many Australians and New Zealanders get to the best of my knowledge. We do Europe, we do Bali, we do Asia, and we do America. We do North America. Um, Tell us about South America and playing there and living there.
So first, like I said, I went to Venezuela. That was like my first time ever in South America. Um, the culture was amazing. The camaraderie of that team was amazing as well. The people were amazing. The food was great, which is big for me. Anywhere I go,
Absolutely.
got to make sure the food is good. So the food was great. And the style of basketball was really good. It's really physical. They play hard, just like this league, just like in almost any other league that's really like high level. Guys from the DR, from Puerto Rico, from the States, just come and hoop. Venezuela was really good for me, and it prepared me for when I went to Uruguay, which is the same style of play basketball. It's just physical, hard-nosed basketball. Like you play like a game like every week, so you're preparing for that battle every week, and every game is like a championship game because you play one game a week essentially. So every game is just a battle. And when I was in Uruguay, it was a little different in Venezuela. The weather is a little different. because it's kind of like New Zealand weather. It's like reversed from what I'm like naturally used to. Um, like I said, the food was great. The people were nice. It was just a great experience. I love South America. I could see myself, like you said, going back and playing in those countries for sure.
I caught myself listening. I had a good question for you, and I can't for the life of me think what it was. Um, I've lost complete track of what it was.
No problem.
So let's get to here then, and it'll probably come back to me. Um, it was interesting. So you may or may not be aware that Sam McKinnon and I, we actually grew up playing basketball together. We played our first professional season. We had some junior and national stuff. So we've known each other for a long time. And as we sort of started trying to put this roster together for the Taranaki Airs, it was interesting because the way that we've sort of always tried to do it is you find your local talent first and then players that and at some level you have a level of trust in because you've known them over the years and it's sort of and I was actually just talking to Quinton and I said, and I know you take this in the right way, you were the only we'd never spoken a word, I'd never seen you in person, and for us you were the one player where we're like, you look fantastic, and we sort of wondered what we get when you turn up. And I'm sure in some way, I've just remembered my question. I'm sure in some way you were thinking the same thing. So before you answer about getting to Taranaki, my question leading into Taranaki was, I always found it a really interesting mindset playing basketball as an import because everybody always tells you in the bad environments your job's on the line almost every game, and it's a really interesting mix to how selfish and how much you number chase as opposed to how much you commit to helping the team get better and winning, and then impacting your next contract. And I was
Right.
pretty lucky. I kind of I was lucky early days that I had a coach who always taught us that team success comes before individual success, that people will recruit people who win and
Right.
are around winning cultures. And so I always thought I fell back on that. But how did you find that pressure? Let's talk about the others first, but then coming into here as an import.
hmm well, the situations are a little bit different as opposed to, well, here as opposed to other places. I felt like, for example, in Uruguay, my last place I just played in, I was required to do way more. Like I was required to number hunt, um, and it was like that wasn't me. You know what I mean? Like I'm not really a big numbers guy. I can go and do it. Like I can go and get numbers if I really need to, but I want to be around a winning culture. That's like pretty much my whole life. Like I've won at the high school level, I won at the college level, and I haven't really won at the pro level yet. So just being around like a championship type of team is great. I can go and certain hunt for numbers, but that's not going to help my team win. And a team like this, like the Airs team, I find myself sometimes like being almost too humble or just like trying to help the team too much, like and not taking like shots that I need to take. But at the same time, it's like that's me caring about the team. Like I want success for the team and not for myself. And I'm
It's fun.
always no, I'm sorry, and I'm always thinking like team first. And like you've been in my ear and coach been in my ear, like telling me to like we need you to make shots, we need you to shoot shots. So that's always good to hear. You don't get too many people at my caliber of player like that. I feel like I am, and people say that I am, that I need to shoot more. So that's always a good thing.
Yeah, it's funny that one of the things I came home after being away and played locally here in Australia, and we had a group where a few of the guys had played with superstars of the league for the years leading up and were sort of conditioned to turn down shots. Um, we had this really cool culture by the end of it where we understood that sometimes the more unselfish you felt like you were being, the more selfish you became because you were turning down a great shot for the team, and it's your turn. Everyone
Right,
has a turn, and
right,
sometimes the more unselfish we got, we accidentally became more selfish by making it someone else's. Yeah, the whole let's make it your problem. I'm turning down a great one for an ordinary one later. So we hopefully that continues to come through. But I'll tell you what, it's a good problem to have. I mean, but that's all. Um, how did New Zealand come across? How did you find out about it? What did you know about New Zealand coming in? I'm always fascinated. You fly; it's a long flight. It's a place you've never been.
Yeah, yeah. It's about a 16-hour flight total. I flew from Pittsburgh to Houston to Auckland to New Plymouth. But initially, I was supposed to be here in 2020, but COVID happened and then there was no season.
We
I
remembered
was,
seeing that. Yeah, absolutely.
I was supposed to sign with the Jets, and that was in 2020. And I was doing a whole bunch of research on the team and on the league, and I seen how physical and how like just how great this league is, and how every game mattered in this league. Like when I was watching past games, and I've always wanted to get back here. So the whole time these last couple years, I've always like I want to go to New Zealand. Like I feel like that's a great place for me to be. I feel like that's a great market for me to establish in and I'm glad to finally be here. I was looking forward to it, like I said, for what 3 or 4 years, and I'm finally step foot in, and hopefully I make my mark here and get remembered here.
I hope so too. I hope you're here for as long as you want to be here. Um, One of the things I've learned since we started looking into this, and I've clearly living here in Australia, and I've played the New Zealand team, and there's an Australian National Basketball League team, the Breakers, based in New Zealand as well. So I've been there lots, but it's funny when you travel without living there, you know about the culture, but you don't immerse yourself in it. Have you had the chance? I know we've done a couple of things, but have you had a chance to immerse yourself into the New Zealand culture yet? And if yes, tell us a little bit about it from your perspective, being a completely foreign culture.
I did. I try to like get around. I like when I first got here. First place I went to was the beach. I'm sorry. First place I went to was the beach. I love a beach, and I was so happy that you guys have one right. It's like 2 blocks from me. But anytime I go around, I see things like you guys are very how I would say is like island people, and you guys have your own language, which I didn't know that. It's Maui or something like that. So like that's very like interesting to me. So every time I'm around, I take pictures and I like read things that I see. And I know we visited a school. We did, I think it was called Epiphany, and that was a great experience. It's a side of New Zealand that most people probably wouldn't see or get to experience, and I was grateful to experience that. And they welcomed me in. They gave me a nickname, and it was great. My whole time here that I've been here is about like a month and a half. It's been awesome.
It's one thing I found as a player more than anything is that oftentimes, and I played as an import a little bit, but you come across imports who are sort of transactional. They're there to get their paycheck, to get their numbers, and
Right,
to get out as quick as possible. One of the things we hoped we could do was put a team together who actually cared about the community a little bit. Understand that basketball's it's a little bit more than basketball being a part of a group.
right.
So it's really exciting to hear, and I was at that as well, of course, and I loved it. It was a highlight for me. Um, but I'm not there every day, and to hear that the guys are there every day are embracing it, it's really really cool. Um, One of the first things, and I know you'll smirk when I say this, and I'd asked Sam a couple of times. Said, "How's Elijah?" Yeah, because I didn't know how's Elijah around the group, and the only what might even be considered negative, but it's not, was he's quiet. And I remember walking up to you, and I think about the second thing I said to you. I said, "So I hear you quiet," and you said, "I speak when I need to speak." I was like, "That's a really, really good answer." Um, it seems to me you think a lot. Like you're one of those people who absorbs things. You take things in. You don't speak for the sake of speaking. Um, Tell us more about you. Like how do you take on traveling around the world? How do you take on these experiences? How do you continue to grow through basketball? I suppose because there's a lot of characters that you come across. I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, I take everything like as a blessing, to be honest. Um, like it's for me, honestly, like, I come from a small town around Pittsburgh area, and not many people succeed. Not many people come out and do what I'm able to do. So I love that I'm able to travel and meet new people and have new experiences and just play basketball for the love. Like it's love for me. Like all of it is. Just having just the ability to just have I don't know the exact word, but just being able to just go and just play basketball for a living and travel the world is awesome. And to go back on what you said about just like I don't speak much, but like I speak when I'm like when I really need to. It's funny because most people kind of found it like almost off-putting that I'm so quiet. They're like, well, he doesn't talk, like he doesn't. But like you said, like I'm more of a thinker. Like I think before I speak. And as opposed to when I was younger, I used to just just talk and not really have guidance. I didn't have really like real guidance of where I was going with like how I was talking. And I learned that as I went on with life. I just kind of just observe first and then speak. And some people don't understand that. But as I get more comfortable, like I think now, I think if you ask Coach, how's Elijah? What's he? Oh, he's great. Like he talks a lot. He's active with the players. Like and that's just what it is. Just being comfortable and trusting people. And that's when I start to open up.
I must admit, I'm always fascinated by the quiet person in the room. You would have met no one who's listening to this will probably know this, but a couple of owners and the group that manages the team. One of the guys, when I met him, just sat in the corner. I don't reckon he said a word for the first 4 times. Christopher, you've met Chris Bilston. I'm
Yeah.
like, I want to meet him. And the same thing, as soon as you meet him and you start talking and maybe he trusts you enough, you're like, God, you're really interesting and you got some really good things to say. No, I agree. Now, my last question for you, and it's only just, we've done a couple of interviews over the years, and I didn't think to ask this question to the other boys in the group, but I'm fascinated to know your answer, and it's one that we came up with, and it's a bit of a deep and meaningful one. So here we go. And there's a quote that says, and a good mate of mine, Paul Shirley, who was an NBA guy, American as well, who I played with in Russia, he had a quote. It said, heaven's arriving at the end of your life and realizing that the story you've written with that life is a story that someone would want to read. So my question to you is, what's the chapter you'd like most people to know about, or what's the most important lesson that you've learnt that you'd like to share?
Um, I would like people to know my whole story. I think my story personally is a great one. I started out as I consider myself a late bloomer. I didn't have like I said the real guidance growing up. Like I just knew I liked basketball and I played it, but I didn't actually have the right like guidance like that taught me basketball. Like I learned that as I progressed and went on with life. But like to answer your question fully, I think I would want someone to know my whole story. I think my story is great.
Hey, well, what I hope for you, mate, is that you get the story to tell it. You get the opportunity to tell your story. You get a chance for everyone in New Zealand to know it and to see part of it. And may we hope that we can be as big a part of it as you want us to be. But for today, mate, I look forward to seeing you in person when I jump on an aeroplane and get across to New Plymouth again when they let me with this hip.
Yeah,
Um,
how are you feeling, man?
no,
How
the hip's good. For those who don't know, I had a hip replacement, so I'm a little bit of swelling, but I'm sick of the crutches, so I'm doing all right. As soon as I can get on a plane, I'll be back, and we've got a big week. We've got a big month coming up. We've got 5 home games in May, so
Yeah, we
we're
do.
looking forward to that. We won't pick that apart right now, mate, but appreciate the chat. Look forward to talking more in person, mate.
No, I appreciate you, Chris. Can't wait to see you, man.